The England squad is in and there are some shocking absentees. Meanwhile, CR7 finally wins silverware in the Middle East and Spurs' captain Romero ditches them in their make or break relegation battle. This is DMAC Daily. I'm sorry, but I gotta say it. This is outrageous. You mean to tell me England's best attacking midfielder didn't get on the plane? Mason Mount has been robbed. Now, I kid, but Tuchel's final squad for this year's World Cup has now come to light, and wow, there are some huge calls. You thought Brazil ditching João Pedro was perhaps a controversial decision. Well, with England, there's divisive selections in basically every area of the pitch, bar the goalkeepers, really. So without further ado, let's run through the squad because there's so much to talk about. Starting with the keepers, and like I said, I don't think any of these were particularly contentious. Pickford is the undisputed number one. Henderson was a shoo-in. The only possible question mark is Trafford, considering he's featured less than Ramsdale and Pope this season. But in fairness to the City keeper, he's performed relatively well when given the rare opportunity. There's a high likelihood he's the long-term number one for England too, so it just makes sense he's on the plane. Now we get to the back line, and this is insane. So Tuchel's gone for 4 centre-backs, 2 left-backs, 2 right-backs, and another separate fullback who can deputise on either side. Considering the German will likely line up in a back 4 formation, that criteria of selection makes sense. The players selected, however, I'm not so sure. First thing that stands out immediately is no Harry Maguire, no slabhead. Now, in the past, everyone knows that regardless of club form, Maguire is as reliable as can be in an England shirt. Yet ironically, his club form has been fantastic this season. On merit, you'd think he's absolutely worthy of selection. I mean, Maguire certainly hasn't hidden his true feelings at the news, taking to social media before the official squad's technically been released and using some highly emotional language to describe his disappointment. Slightly unprofessional, but totally understandable too. You know, the fact that Stones, for instance, has been selected ahead of him despite only playing 8 minutes of Premier League football in 2026 is very questionable, as is the decision for Quansah to be favoured. It appears Tuchel's really prioritising mobility in his back 4. Colwell will be disappointed to be snubbed too, but having just recovered from an ACL injury, maybe it's a good thing for him long term. Chalobah and Tomori also miss out, but neither of them have had the best seasons. At right back, it's another big call. No Trent, with James and Livramento favoured, alongside Jed Spence. Now, his inclusion on paper sounds bizarre because talent-wise, he doesn't even come close to Trent. One can only assume the logic here is that he is more of a versatile option and that his ability to operate as both a left and right fullback could be more convenient in case of an injury crisis. But then again, Livramento can also do a job at left back, so I really don't know how to feel about this. Certainly a bold move from the German. Again, athleticism appears to be prioritized here. Personally, I'm a huge fan of James and Livramento. Spence, not so much, but in terms of creative fullbacks, there's probably none like Trent in all of world football. So he'll no doubt feel aggrieved at Tuchel's decision, especially missing out over Spence. Then we move to the left backs, and again, I'm truly stunned here. Not with Nico O'Reilly's selection, he's a shoo-in to start and has had a brilliant season, but you mean to tell me that Dan Burn comes in as a left back ahead of the likes of his own club teammate Lewis Hall? Huh? So much for prioritizing speed, I guess. Meanwhile, Luke Shaw will be devastated. He's had a great season at United, and like Maguire, has always been so reliable in an England jersey. Even Miles Lewis-Skelly will feel hard done by. He's a highly versatile squad member. I would have put all 3 ahead of Burn personally. But Tuchel's clearly a big fan of the big fella. Maybe because he can play left back and centre back. I don't know. Then we move to the midfield, and this is insane. Rice, Anderson, Bellingham, Rodgers, Mainu. Yeah, no surprises there. Mainer's a bit of a bolter into the squad, but considering his second half of the season with United and previous history with England, he's a sensible inclusion in my opinion. But Jordan Henderson, in the big 2026, are we being for real here, Tuchel? Jordan Henderson, selected ahead of the likes of Adam Wharton, James Garner, or even Alex Scott, who for me is England's most underrated midfield talent. I just can't make any sense of Henderson in there. Bar experience alone, there's no other metric that he performs those 3 in, And considering there's so many leaders within the squad, I'm just truly baffled with this pick. The other surprise in midfield is the omission of Morgan Gibbs-White. He's had a tremendous season for Forest, a Premier League Player of the Year nominee, but Tuchel's clearly never been a huge fan of the player. All 6 of his previous caps under Tuchel were from the bench, so I'm not inherently surprised he wasn't included with Bellingham and Rodgers deemed more important. Now we move to the forward line, and like every other area of the park, there were some high-profile omissions, but I actually rate Tuchel's bravery here. His decision to not include both Palmer and Foden shows that he's not picking players on reputation alone. Truth be told, neither have been good enough this season. Additionally, Foden struggled at previous major tournaments with England, and with Palmer again, it appears Tuchel is favouring athleticism over pure playmaking ability, both in the central areas and out wide. Do I think Palmer is a better player than Madueke? Obviously, yes, but Tuchel evidently wants pace out wide. It's why Jared Bowen wasn't selected either, even though he's had a far more productive season than the Arsenal right winger. Tuchel's system is dependent on explosive speed. So despite the outrage of prominent reactionaries in the football space, I'm looking at you, Rory Jennings, this isn't all that surprising. I don't have too many qualms with the other forward selections. Gordon, Rashford and Eze, all deserving in my eyes. As for the strikers, the only dubious inclusion here is Tony. Calvert-Lewin will definitely feel hard done by. He's had a great year with Leeds, but Tony's also been prolific for Al Ahly and is also a bit of a fearless character too, a trait Tuchel seems to appreciate. So yeah, long story short, some big calls from the German, some I rate, some I completely disagree with. But with all that said, let me know your thoughts below. I'm curious as to what everyone else is thinking. Switching gears to the Middle East, and Cristiano Ronaldo has finally done it. After more than 3 years in Saudi Arabia, Al Nassr are champions following a commanding 4-1 victory over Damak, with Ronaldo scoring twice on the final day to secure the Saudi Pro League title. For a player who has won virtually everything in club football, these last few years have strangely become one of the most scrutinized chapters of his illustrious career. Ever since Ronaldo arrived in Riyadh in early 2023 following his explosive Manchester United exit, there's been this constant narrative hanging over him. Yes, he's been scoring goals at an absurd rate throughout, but where are the trophies? Al Nassr had lost finals, fallen short in previous title races, and repeatedly watched Al Hilal dominate domestically. Even just days ago, Ronaldo was criticized further following Al Nassr's ACL 2 final defeat to Gamba Osaka, a match they were heavily expected to win, which is why this title matters so much to CR7. He was the big name to kickstart the Saudi Pro League revolution. Now he's carried them to their first Saudi Pro League title since 2019. Beyond the trophy itself, this is vindication for his decision to come here in the first place. It's also been 5 years since his last title at club level, the last being a Coppa Italia triumph with Juventus back in 2021. With today's victory, he's also now won a league title in 5 separate countries. So I'm happy for him, man. I know there's a lot of fair criticisms of CR7 at times for his ego and all that other stuff, but like Messi in MLS, this chapter has proven to be a great environment to close out a legendary career. The fact that he's still going strong at 41-2 is a testament to his dedication to the sport. So props to him. Hopefully he can give a good account of himself at this year's World Cup. Moving back to English football, and Spurs club captain Cristiano Romero is in hot water following the news that he won't be present at Spurs' season-defining clash at home to Everton, traveling to Argentina instead to watch his boyhood club play. Now, Romero is currently sidelined with a knee injury that was suffered during Tottenham's defeat to Sunderland last month, meaning he was never going to physically play in this match. But Tottenham are entering the final day of the Premier League season, still not mathematically safe from relegation. So to see their club captain voluntarily leave the country before such a high-stakes match has rightfully infuriated the Spurs fanbase. Romero, however, is clearly more concerned with Belgrano's title decider against River Plate. Granted, this club does mean a whole lot to Romero. He came through their academy, made his pro debut there, and has always maintained a deep emotional connection to the club and the city of Cordoba. You know, this isn't just some random football match to him either. Belgrano are potentially chasing one of the biggest moments in their modern history against the biggest club in Argentina. But with the armband of a huge club comes an additional responsibility of commitment. The optics of this are objectively terrible. And when you combine that with the ongoing rumors about Romero's long-term future, the valid criticisms of his leadership already this season, and previous tensions surrounding his outspoken comments, many supporters just see this as a prime example of everything something wrong with this club and the disconnect between the players and the fans. Think about it. Something like this is simply implausible at clubs like Arsenal or City. It's just embarrassing, but is also so Spursy. Going back to international football news, and we had another 3 confirmed squad announcements in the past 24 hours, starting with Norway, who are for many this year's dark horses. They haven't featured at the World Cup since 1998, but you look at this crop of players and there is an abundance of quality throughout the squad, particularly in that front third. Haaland is obviously the out-and-out star of this team alongside Martin Odegaard just behind, but I look at the even younger core that they've got brewing here, the likes of Antonio Nusa, Andreas Schelderup, Oscar Bob. Their midfield is also highly experienced. They've got quality fullbacks too. The centre back and goalkeeping department is noticeably weaker, but this team are going to no doubt be a problem. Just like fellow Group I opponents, Senegal. Granted, they dropped a preliminary squad, so 28 players as of today rather than the final 26, but what an incredible generation they've got on their hands. The real winners of AFCON. I can definitely see this nation making a deep run in the tournament. There is serious quality in practically every single area of the pitch. You have to feel sorry for Iraq because they've drawn 3 incredibly daunting opponents. And last but certainly not least, we got to talk about Germany's squad because like Tuchel's England in many ways, Nagelsmann has made some big calls. The first of which being reinstating Neuer. Apparently he will be their number 1 ahead of Baumann and Nubel. You got to feel for Atubolu in a way because he's had a great season at Freiburg, but I do love the romantic elements of a Neuer last dance just quietly. Jan Bissek being snubbed is another dubious call. He's had a great 2026 at Inter thus far, probably outperformed Rudiger, but I'm ultimately not surprised to see the Madrid centre-back favoured. Goretzka included, however, is just crazy work. It's giving Jordan Henderson in many ways. Like the fact that Tom Bischoff was snubbed at his expense is wild to me. Same thing with Stark of Leeds. I know it's going to be a tall order getting into that midfield already with Pavlovic, Kimmich, Nemecha, and Stiller in the mix, but Goretzka is so past it. Even Gross's inclusion is a bit strange to me just quietly. He's done well at Brighton, but I can't envisage him playing a crucial role. Then in the forward line, very surprised to see the likes of Adeyemi, Schade, or the FM GOAT himself, Elmaya, excluded. Outside of Leveling, there isn't much explosive pace in this squad. A lot of technical ballers, sure, the likes of Musiala, Wirtz, and Lennart Karl. Curious to see how much influence he'll have, but I just don't know how to feel about this squad. Leroy Sané's inclusion, that's another suspect one. He hasn't had a great season at Galatasaray by any means. Furyk will feel hard done by too. All in all, it's a controversial squad. Huge pressure on Nagelsmann to deliver this summer. Anyways, guys, that's all for today's DMAC Daily. Thanks for watching as always, and I'll see you next time.